You are driving alone at night. The highway is almost empty. Just you and a long line of white dashes pulling you forward through the dark. It is 2:13 a.m. The radio is low. The coffee in your cup holder is cold. Then you see him. A man standing on the shoulder of Interstate 74, just past mile marker 217. No car, no luggage, just a dark jacket, jeans, and a small backpack at his feet. His thumb is out in that old universal gesture. Hitchhiker, you tell yourself you would never stop. Not at this hour, not out here, but other people do. Between 1998 and 2021, 11 drivers in 3 different states reported picking up the same man on the same stretch of highway. He says his name is Eli. He never gives a last name that checks out. He always asks to be dropped just past the next exit. Dashcams and toll cameras catch him getting into cars, but they never see him get out. Hours later, those drivers are found, car idling on an empty exit ramp, headlights on. The driver's door is open. Sometimes the driver is missing. Sometimes the driver is dead. And the hitchhiker, he is gone. No fingerprints, no DNA, no match on any database. Just one detail that chills every investigator who's ever worked the file. In nearly every case, the driver had made a call or text before they vanished, saying the same 5 words. I'm giving someone a ride. This is the story of the highway hitchhiker case, which the FBI still can't close. The first time he shows up in an official report is October 3rd, 1998. Back then, Interstate 74 through rural Indiana was a different kind of lonely. No smartphones, no dash cams on every other car. Just long-haul truckers, college kids, and locals who knew where the highway dipped and curved in the dark. At 10:46 p.m., 28-year-old Mark Ellison, a mechanic from Cincinnati, called his wife from a payphone at a gas station outside Crawfordsville. Running late, he said, but I'm on my way. Be home in a couple of hours. Security footage shows him paying for gas, buying a coffee, and heading back toward his blue Ford Taurus. Nothing unusual, just another late drive home. Somewhere between the gas station and mile marker 217, Mark passed a man standing on the shoulder. It was a chilly October night, temperature in the low 40s, light rain spitting across the hood. We only know what happened next because of what his wife told police later. At 11:02 p.m., she missed a call. At 11:04 p.m., Mark left a voicemail. His voice was calm, but there was a tightness in it she couldn't place at the time. Hey, babe, don't freak out. I'm fine. I just picked up a guy on the highway. His car broke down, I guess. I'll drop him at the next exit, and then I'll be home. Love you. It was the kind of message you barely notice when life continues. Except it didn't. When Mark failed to show up by 2 a.m., his wife called his brother, then the highway patrol. By dawn, a bolo was out on his car. They found it at 6:37 a.m. The Ford Taurus was parked neatly on the shoulder just past exit 220. The driver's door opens. Engine off. Headlights still on. Mark's wallet and phone were inside. Keys in the ignition. No sign of a struggle. No sign of Mark. Troopers walked the ditches, the tree line, every inch of the median for half a mile in both directions. Dogs were brought in. Helicopters scanned from above. Nothing. At the time, investigators wrote it up as a probable voluntary disappearance. Maybe he snapped. Maybe he walked away from his life. Maybe, as one detective put it, he got tired of the grind and just kept walking. His wife insisted otherwise. He wouldn't leave, she told anyone who would listen. He just wouldn't. No one in 1998 knew that Mark Ellison's last voicemail contained a pattern that would repeat, almost word for word, over the next 2 decades. I just picked up a guy on the highway, the first trace of a man who never seemed to leave footprints. The second case didn't even look like a case at first. It was written up as a single-vehicle accident. On a cold night in February 2004, Rachel Pierce, a 22-year-old grad student, was driving west on I-74 after visiting friends in Indianapolis. It was snowing in light, lazy flakes that barely stuck to the asphalt. At 1:19 a.m., Rachel called her roommate in Urbana. Cell records show a 42-second call. "You still awake?" She laughed. They talked about nothing: tests, rent, and who was bringing snacks to movie night. Then Rachel's tone shifted mid-sentence. "Hang on," she said. "There's a guy on the side of the road. He looks freezing." Her roommate heard the sound of Rachel's blinker clicking on. "Don't pick up strangers, Ratch," the roommate joked. "You watch too many horror movies." Rachel laughed. "It's fine. I'll call you back in 5. She never did. At 3:52 a.m., a snowplow driver spotted tire tracks leading off the highway near mile marker 216, just 1 mile from where Mark Ellison was last confirmed on the road 6 years earlier. Rachel's car was nose down in a shallow ditch. The front bumper scraped, but the damage was minor. Airbags had not deployed. The driver's door was ajar, dome light still on. The engine was off. There were no footprints in the snow leading away from the car. None leading to it either. It was as if the vehicle had simply slid off the road and stopped, and everything else had been erased. Rachel was gone. When investigators pulled her phone records, they found the late-night call to her roommate. They found the sentence that made their hair stand up. "There's a guy on the side of the road," but there were no other calls placed after that. Number 911. "No, I'm giving someone a ride." Her roommate had assumed the line dropped because of a bad reception and had fallen back asleep. Later, under fluorescent lights, she would tell state police, "I should have told her to keep driving. I should have said it louder." The accident reconstruction never fully made sense. Speed estimates suggested Rachel had simply drifted onto the shoulder, then into the ditch at less than 25 miles per hour. There were no skid marks, no signs she'd swerved to avoid anything. Just one faint impression in the snow near the rear passenger door. Too melted, too distorted to count as evidence. But one trooper swore it looked like the partial outline of a boot heel. At the time, no one connected Rachel's case to Mark Ellison's. Different states, different years. Just two drivers who vanished on the same highway. It would take the third case to pull the pattern into focus. By 2012, cars had begun to watch themselves. Dashcams were affordable. Trucking companies installed them to protect against liability. Regular drivers started using them to document road trips and protect against insurance scams. On July 9, 2012, 45-year-old Henry Hank McCall, a long-haul trucker from Iowa, was hauling freight along I-74 through Illinois. His company's Dashcam recorded everything. Hank was a creature of habit. Same coffee, same brand of cigarettes, same late-night talk radio to keep him company on long stretches of dark highway. His wife called him predictable in the best possible way. At 1:56 a.m., the Dashcam shows the empty interstate ahead. Dashed white lines, the faint glow of distant taillights, nothing unusual. At 2:02 a.m., his CB radio crackles. Another trucker jokes about the weather. At 2:07 a.m., the camera catches something by the right shoulder. A man, standing just beyond the reach of the truck's headlights. He appears out of the darkness gradually. First a shape, then details. Dark jacket, jeans. A small backpack was sitting by his feet. In the grainy Dashcam video, he looks straight ahead, not directly at the truck. His thumb is not out. He is simply there. Hank's truck passes him without slowing down. At 2:08 a.m., Hank grabs his cell phone. The Dashcam timestamps match his phone records. He calls his wife. "Hey," he says, voice light. "You awake?" They talk for a minute. Weather, schedules, nothing important. Then Hank says, "You're not going to believe this. I just passed a guy out here on the shoulder, middle of nowhere. No car, nothing. I might turn around and see if he needs help." There's a pause on the call. "Please don't." His wife replies, "Hank, you hear stories?" I know. He chuckles. "I'll just roll by slow, make sure he's not hurt or something. I'll call you back in a bit." He never does. The Dashcam shows Hank's truck signal right, then exit onto a ramp about 3 miles later. He loops over the overpass, heads back eastbound, then exits again to reverse direction once more. A slow, Careful U-turn using the interchanges the way truckers do when they miss an exit. At 2:19 a.m., the camera picks up the same stretch of shoulder where the man had been standing. He's still there. This time, Hank's truck slows. Headlights wash over the hitchhiker fully. We see him clearly for the first and last time. Mid-30s, pale, dark hair, cleans haven, plain dark jacket zipped to the throat. No visible injuries, no obvious distress. He doesn't wave. He doesn't step back. He simply turns his head and looks directly into the lens. For 3 full seconds. Then the video glitches. A burst of static. The frame skip. When the image clears, the shoulder is empty. No man. No backpack. Just wet asphalt and the thin white line of the road's edge. The truck drives on. At 3:02 a.m., Hank's rig is found parked on an off-ramp near a rest area. Hazard lights blinking. The door is closed, but not locked. His logbook sits on the passenger seat. His phone is on the floor, screen cracked. Hank is gone. The company pulls the dashcam footage and hands it over to the state police. Years later, after 2 more disappearances on the same stretch of road, that clip will appear in internal FBI briefings. A still frame from it will be enlarged, enhanced, and passed around federal offices. Agents will argue about what they see in the hitchhiker's eyes. Some will say he looks scared. Some will say he looks empty. Some will swear he looks like he's waiting. All right, let's keep the story running. For a long time, the cases lived in separate folders. 1998, Mark Ellison, missing from his car at exit 220. 2004, Rachel Pierce, car in a ditch, driver gone. 2012, Hank McCall, truck abandoned on a ramp, dashcam footage of a strange man. Different states, different jurisdictions, different years. They might have stayed unconnected if not for a young analyst in the FBI's Criminal Investigative Division named Leah Rourke. Leah didn't carry a gun. She didn't chase suspects down alleys. She chased patterns. In 2014, she was assigned to a task force quietly reviewing anomalous missing persons cases along interstate corridors. Officially, they were looking for serial offenders, truck stop predators, traffickers, killers using highways as hunting grounds. Unofficially, they were looking for things that didn't fit. Leah sat in a windowless room in D.C., surrounded by boxes and servers, sorting human tragedy into spreadsheets. When she pulled up the McCall file, the dashcam frame caught her first. A still of a man on the shoulder, illuminated in the truck's headlights. Her eyes flicked to the location. I-74 westbound, mile marker 217. Something tugged at her memory. She searched their database for other missing persons with vehicle recovery within a 5-mile radius. 2 hits. Ellison, Mark, 1998, last contact near I-74 Crawfordsville corridor. Pierce, Rachel, 2004 single car slide-off near mile 216. She opened Ellison's file, scanned the summary, then froze. The last voicemail to his wife, transcribed under timeline. I just picked up a guy on the highway. Rachel's file had the roommate's statement. She said there was a guy on the side of the road. 3 drivers. Same highway. Same small stretch of asphalt. Same detail. A man on the shoulder at night. Leah printed the 3 case summaries and taped them beside each other on her wall. Alone, each looked tragic but explainable. Together, they felt wrong. She requested the original Ellison and Pierce evidence from storage, then pulled McCall's dashcam and watched it on loop. The way the man turned his head, the way he held his body, still almost too still, the 3-second stare into the lens. When she compared the height and build estimates from the older witness notes, a rough picture formed. Male, white, mid-30s to early 40s, depending on year. Medium build, dark hair, possibly the same individual aging over time. She built a memo and pushed it up the chain. Subject, potential linked cases, Interstate 74 corridor. Details, 3 missing person incidents between 1998 and 2012 involving drivers who referenced a male subject on the shoulder before disappearing. All within a 5-mile stretch near mile marker 217. Recommend elevation and further analysis. took months, but eventually, the memo landed on the desk of a supervisory special agent with too many cold cases and not enough wins. He read it twice. Then he wrote a note in the margin. If we're wrong, we waste time. If we're right, we're staring at a mobile offender operating for at least 14 years on the same road. The highway hitchhiker case was born. Before they could chase the dead, they needed someone who had survived. Took Leah 2 more months to find her. Buried in a state police database in Illinois was a 2010 report that never went anywhere. A suspicious encounter on highway logged by a trooper nearing retirement. No crime, no charges, just a note. The complainant was a woman named Dana Russell. She was 30 at the time, driving home from a late shift at a hospital, alone on I-74 near, again, mile marker 217. Leah tracked her down in 2015. Dana worked days now, hair shorter, lines deeper around her eyes. She hesitated when Leah showed her the old report. You know nothing actually happened, right? Dana said. I wasn't hurt. I know you guys have bigger cases. Leah explained what she was working on. She mentioned Ellison, Pierce, McCall. Dana went very quiet. Tell me what you remember, Leah said softly. Dana stared at the table for a long time before she answered. Okay. She exhaled. It was about 3 in the morning. I just finished a double. I was wiped. I remember thinking I shouldn't be driving, but I just wanted my own bed. She described the empty highway, the hypnotic rhythm of lane markers, the faint hiss of the radio. Then I saw him, she said, just standing there. No car, no hazards on, no flashers, just a man on the shoulder with a backpack. He wasn't even holding his thumb out. He was just waiting. She drove past him the first time, telling herself not to get involved. I checked my rear view, she said, and he was still there, getting smaller. Bothered me. I told myself, Dana, if that was your brother or your dad, you'd want someone to check. She took the next exit, looped around, and came back. When I approached the spot again, he wasn't alone. Her fingers tightened around her coffee cup. There was a car on the shoulder behind him, a sedan. I saw 2 silhouettes. It looked like he'd gotten a ride. Leah frowned. But that's not what you wrote in the report. Dana shook her head. Because that's not the weird part. She swallowed. I kept driving. I told myself, good. Someone helped him, you don't have to. But I couldn't shake this feeling. So I pulled into a rest area 10 minutes later to wash my face, wake up a bit. I was in the bathroom for maybe 5 minutes. When I came back to my car and opened the door, she paused. He was standing in front of my headlights. Leah felt goosebumps prick her arms. The same man? She asked. Same jacket, same backpack, same face. Dana said. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't angry. He just looked at me like he knew me. As we'd already had a conversation, I couldn't remember. She didn't ask how he got there. She didn't ask why. I shouted. She admitted. Told him to get away from my car or I'd call the police. He tilted his head, like he was disappointed. Then he stepped out of the beams and, I swear to you, it felt like the air went weird, like heat above asphalt on a summer day. I blinked, and he was just gone. No footsteps, no car door, no engine, silence. She'd gotten in her car, locked the doors, driven to the next exit, and then called state police from a gas station. They were polite, she said, but you could tell they thought I was tired and jumpy. Maybe I was. Leah slid a printed still from McCall's dashcam across the table. Is this him? She asked. Dana stared at it for a long time. I think so, she whispered. It's grainy, but the eyes feel the same. The eyes? Leah pressed gently. Dana's voice dropped. He looked at me like I'd already failed some kind of test I didn't know I was taking. The official report labeled it possible attempted approach by unknown subject. No crime established. To the FBI, it was something else. Proof that someone was working that stretch of highway. Someone who could be present and then gone in ways that made witnesses doubt themselves. Someone who sometimes chose not to finish whatever he'd started. The FBI didn't label cases supernatural. They labeled them complex offenders with unusual behavioral signatures. The highway hitchhiker file landed on the desk of Supervisory Special Agent Mark Bishop, a behavioral analyst out of Quantico known for his patience and his skepticism. He started where he always did, with the facts. 3 confirmed disappearances. Mark Ellison, 1998. Car found empty. Voluntary disappearance unlikely. Rachel Pierce, 2004. Car in ditch, no prints, missing driver. Hank McCall, 2012. Truck abandoned, dashcam footage. 1 suspicious encounter. Dana Russell, 2010. Subject seen on the shoulder, later reappeared at the rest stop. All along the same corridor of I-74, clustered around mile markers 214 to 220. All between the hours of 11 p.m. and 4 a.m. All involving the same behavioral hook. A lone person on the shoulder appearing to need help. Bishop charted it visually. When he mapped the timeline, another pattern emerged. The gaps between incidents. 1998 to 2004, 6 years. 2004 to 2010, 6 years. 2010 to 2012, 2 years. This wasn't a chaotic spree. It looked like someone was experimenting, adapting, growing bolder. He brought in the dashcam stills, cleaned as much as tech would allow. He compared them to the composite drawn from Dana's description. It wasn't perfect, but the overlap was there. Normal haircut, normal face, no visible scars or tattoos. The kind of man you wouldn't remember clearly a day later. Bishop built a preliminary profile. Male, white, late 20s to mid-40s over the span of incidents. High tolerance for risk, but controlled. No scenes of rage, no messy crime scenes. Likely comfortable around vehicles and highways, truck stops, auto shops, delivery work, or law enforcement adjacent. May have a background in emergency response or logistics, understanding patrol patterns and response times. Possible paraphilic interest in control, disappearance, and erasure rather than visible violence. What bothered Bishop most was the vanishing act. People don't just step into the dark and never leave a footprint, unless the abductions were quicker and quieter than anyone wanted to imagine. He floated a theory. We're likely looking at a mobile offender who uses a secondary vehicle or location, possibly a van or truck with hidden compartments. He gains the driver's trust just enough to get them to stop or pull off, and then he neutralizes them before they can react or call for help. Practical, ugly, human. But then there was the problem of time. In McCall's case, the dashcam recorded the approach in real time. No cuts until the glitch. No opportunity for someone to sneak up on a moving truck, disable the driver, and remove him without a mark. And Dana's account at the rest stop? Impossible to fit into normal timelines. Bishop didn't dismiss those details. He reframed them. We're not dealing with ghosts, he told Leah. We're dealing with perception, stress, fatigue. Night driving distorts time and distance. People misremember. The cameras glitch. But under all of that, there's a man. He pinned the hitchhiker's face to the center of the board and drew a circle around it. He wrote 3 words underneath. Wants to be seen. Predators who truly wanted to disappear didn't stand on the shoulders of busy interstates. They hid. This one stood there and waited for people to notice him. The FBI started quietly monitoring that stretch of I-74 more closely. Unmarked cars, occasional plainclothes patrols, truck stop canvassing. Officially, they were looking for drug couriers and traffickers. Unofficially, they were hunting for a man who seemed to appear only when no one was looking straight at him. Long before the FBI gave the case a name, the truckers had one. They called him Mile Marker Man. His story traveled 1 CB radio at a time. At a crowded diner off exit 211, drivers swapped horror stories over coffee and eggs. Guy, I know picked up a hitcher out there, middle of the night. One would say, got a weird vibe, dropped him fast. Swears the guy never opened the door, just wasn't in the seat anymore. Another would swear up and down he'd seen a man standing by 217 in a snowstorm with no coat, just staring straight ahead. No one had proof. They had impressions. They had moments. One driver described losing 20 minutes of time on that stretch, seeing the mile marker, blinking, and suddenly realizing he was further down the road with no memory of the in-between. Probably just nodded off. His buddy said, "My coffee was full." He replied, "And my knuckles were still white on the wheel." Stories like that don't make it into official reports. They make it into late-night threads on trucking forums. They become the kind of talk that new drivers laugh off and older ones don't. Once McCall's dashcam still leaked, it shouldn't have, but things always do. The legend spread beyond the CD. YouTube channels did breakdowns of the grainy frame. Some claimed to see weird artifacts around the Hitchhiker's face. Others insisted he was just a man in the wrong place at the wrong time, caught in the glare of bad luck and worse timing. On Reddit, the case got a nickname, the Highway Hitchhiker. Some users treated it like a ghost story. Others dug for real police records. The Ellison and Pierce disappearances were linked in amateur timelines before the FBI acknowledged any connection. For families of the missing, it was a nightmare. Mark's wife refused to watch any of it. She couldn't stand the idea of strangers pausing her husband's last message like it was a movie scene. Rachel's parents went the other way. They watched everything. If someone somewhere spotted a detail the police missed, they wanted to know. Hank's wife stared at the still of the hitchhiker's face and felt a cold certainty she couldn't shake. "He doesn't look evil," she said once to a reporter who persisted until she answered. "He looks empty, like he decided something before he stepped on that road, and nothing anyone said to him mattered after that." The FBI didn't comment publicly. On paper, there was no highway hitchhiker case, just a cluster of unsolved disappearances with a shared backdrop. The rest of it lived where so many American fears do now, online, half urban legend, half open wound. Technology keeps getting sharper, so do the things it captures. On September 14, 2019, a software engineer named Caleb Morgan was driving his Tesla Model 3 back to Chicago after a weekend trip. It was after midnight. He flipped the car into autopilot, hands hovering near the wheel, temptation and fatigue arguing inside his skull. The car's internal cameras watched him. Its external cameras watched everything else. At 12:41 a.m., the forward-facing camera recorded something on the shoulder near mile marker 218. A man, standing next to the guardrail. Dark jacket, jeans, backpack. Again, autopilot flagged him as a roadside object and gave Caleb a gentle nudge on the steering wheel. Caleb glanced up from the podcast he was half listening to and frowned. "What is this guy doing out here?" he muttered. He pressed the voice control. "Take a snapshot," he told the car. The Tesla obediently saved a clip. Caleb thought about taking the next exit, turning around, and checking on the guy. Then he remembered the stories. He'd seen the dashcam breakdowns on YouTube. He'd read the Reddit threads. He wasn't sure he believed in any of it, but he believed in not being stupid on a dark highway. He kept driving. The car did the rest. At 12:44 a.m., something unusual happened. Tesla's cameras glitched. For exactly 1.6 seconds, all external feeds recorded nothing but static. The system log flagged it as sensor interference. When the picture returned, the highway shoulder was empty. Caleb didn't notice in real time. He was too busy yawning, rolling his neck, promising himself he'd pull into the next rest stop. He only discovered the glitch 2 days later when a friend asked if he had seen anything weird on the 74 corridor. They dug into the footage, curious. They saw the man on the shoulder, the clean, crisp image, better than any dashcam before it. They saw his face. It was clearer now, not monstrous, not deformed, just one eye seemed slightly lower than the other, but that could have been shadows. His mouth had a faint line of scar tissue at the corner, like an old injury. His gaze never tracked the car. He stared straight ahead, as if focused on some point only he could see. Frame by frame, the man did not move at all. Not a sway, not a flinch. like a cutout placed on the side of the road. Then came the static. Caleb posted a shortened, blurred version online, more for clout than concern. The internet did what it always does. Half the comments screamed, "Fake." The other half said they could see faces in the static. The FBI quietly requested the unedited footage. They got the full version, logs and all. Their texts confirmed the glitch. Interference did happen sometimes. Weather, hardware, random noise, but the timing made some agents uneasy. The hitchhiker appeared. The sensors flagged him. Then the cameras briefly went blind. When they came back, the only proof he'd been there was the recording itself. Once again, the man on the shoulder had left no tire tracks, no footprints, no body. Just pixels. You can't build a sting for something you can't predict. But Bishop tried. In early 2021, with internal pressure growing and online attention peaking again, the FBI authorized a targeted surveillance operation on the 74-mile corridor between mile markers 210 and 222. The plan wasn't cinematic. No decoys and dresses. No dramatic confrontations. Just unmarked vehicles. Thermal cameras. Long nights. They stationed plainclothes agents at truck stops and rest areas. They parked a mobile command unit disguised as a construction trailer near an overpass. They had state police run low-visibility patrols. And they seeded one more thing. A dummy driver. Agent Riley Ortiz was in her late 30s, with the kind of worn-in fatigue that made her look like any other night worker heading home alone. She was briefed thoroughly, wired, armed, and given a nondescript sedan with front and rear cameras. Her job was simple: drive the stretch at night. If she saw a man on the shoulder matching the description, she would slow, pull into the next safe turnout, and radio it in. She was not to stop. They did this for 3 weeks. Nothing. Empty shoulders. Raccoons. The occasional broken-down car with a real, verifiable owner. On the 24th night, just past 1 a.m., Ortiz was on her third pass of the corridor when her dashcam flagged a roadside object. She glanced up. There he was. Mile marker 217. Dark jacket. Backpack. Head bowed slightly. "I've got a visual," she said into her mic, voice steady. "Possible subject at 217 westbound. I am not stopping. Repeat, not stopping." In the command van, Leah and Bishop leaned closer to the monitor. The hitchhiker stepped into the halo of the headlights. The cameras saw his face. Same features. Same blank expression. Same too-still posture. "We have him," Leah whispered. Ortiz drove past. The man did not turn to look. "Subject remains roadside," Ortiz reported. "Continuing to the next exit, then I'll loop around." The command team spun up. 2 cruisers were dispatched to the area. A thermal drone was launched from a nearby turnout. As Ortiz took the exit and crossed over the interstate, the drone's camera swept the shoulder near 217. No heat signature, no human shape, nothing. Negative visual from the air. The drone operator said, "Are we sure your camera isn't ghosting Riley?" "I saw him," Ortiz snapped. "Don't tell me what I did or didn't see. I am turning back now." They watched her feed as she merged back onto the westbound 74. When she approached mile marker 217 again, a bolt of cold went through the command van. The hitchhiker was standing in the same spot, but this time he was facing traffic, facing her. He lifted his arm, not a thumb out, not a wave. His hand hung there, palm half open, like he was testing the air. Ortiz swore under her breath. "Face, subject has changed position," she said tightly. "He's now facing westbound traffic, still not stopping." "I repeat, I am not." The audio cut out. On the monitors, all 4 camera feeds pixelated at once. Static. It lasted exactly 4 seconds. In the command van, alarms flashed. Techs scrambled to re-establish the connection. Bishop barked orders. Leah gripped the edge of the console so hard her knuckles went white. Then the feed snapped back. Ortiz's car was parked on the off-ramp near exit 220. Hazards blinking. Ortiz sat behind the wheel, breathing hard. "Riley report," Bishop demanded. She blinked, confused. "Why are we stopped?" she asked. "I was just passing 217. Leah looked at the timestamps. 7 minutes had passed. "What's the last thing you remember?" Leah asked. "I saw him," Ortiz said slowly, "on the shoulder, facing me. Then the radio popped. My ears rang. Felt like my head was in a pressure chamber. I blinked and I'm here." Her gun was still holstered. Her seatbelt was still on. No signs of a struggle. No injuries. No physical evidence in the car. The drone footage showed nothing but an empty highway during those missing minutes. The cruisers that had been racing toward 217 never saw a man on the shoulder. The official report on the surveillance operation was dry. Brief communications lost. No physical contact with subject. Objective not achieved. Unofficially, it shook the team. Bishop doubled down on rational explanations. Night driving, micro-sleeps, equipment glitch, coincidence. We cannot write time loss and mysterious hitchhiker into an FBI report, he told Leah. "We don't get to do that." Leah didn't argue, but she kept a copy of the raw footage on her personal drive and watched it more times than she admitted. On the internet, the highway hitchhiker became its own ecosystem. Some treated him like a cryptid, a roadside phantom haunting I-74. Some treated him like a perfectly ordinary serial predator who'd learned to exploit darkness, fatigue, and the gaps in jurisdictional communication. Some said he was a metaphor for American loneliness, projected onto a stretch of concrete that cut through the heartland. For the FBI, he was none of those things. He was a file, a growing stack of reports, interviews, and inconclusive surveillance. He was a line in budget meetings. He was a question in the back of their minds whenever a new missing person bulletin involved a car found empty on a highway. The last confirmed highway hitchhiker adjacent incident came in 2021, when a college student named Jordan Price went missing while driving home from a weekend trip. His last text to his girlfriend read, "Weird dude on the shoulder out here. Chill. I'm not stopping, LOL." His car was found idling an hour later on an exit ramp near. You already know the mile marker. Jordan was never found. No one could prove he ever actually stopped. No one could prove he didn't. The FBI won't officially call it the highway hitchhiker case. They will tell you, if pressed, that interstates are dangerous, that people disappear for all kinds of reasons, and that correlation does not equal causation. They're not wrong. But if you drive that stretch of I-74 on a cold weeknight and pass mile marker 217, you might notice something in the corner of your eye. A man in a dark jacket, standing by the guardrail with a backpack at his feet. If you blink, he'll be gone. If you don't blink, you might see him turn his head in the glow of your headlights. Not desperate, not afraid, just certain. Certain you saw him. Certain you'll keep thinking about him long after you've forgotten every other mile of that drive. And somewhere, in an office with no windows and too many files, an analyst will add one more tip to a case that, officially, does not exist. A case the FBI still can't close. And as always, follow Enter the Crime for true crime stories.